All right, what's up, guys? It is 11:34 and we're in the Jeep headed to the gym. It is kind of a gray, cold, and rainy day, and I want to have some flat running because I got a lot of elevation gain this week after adjusting from Florida. But we're going to get some miles in the Asics Superblast this morning or this early afternoon. We've had a few snafus the past few nights with tech issues uploading videos. So videos have been late and I've been late getting to bed. So this morning, I'm going to do an 8-mile nice recovery run on the treadmill on this guy. I did an 8-mile stroller run yesterday after I did a super tough workout in the Sky Paris. We went through all of the race paces, started off at around marathon effort, which was about 6:10, and then progressed down to about a 5:30 something pace. And you can see a little paper here because I was cleaning these off from running in the rain. But yeah, we ran in the rain with the stroller after that. These left my legs feeling super protected, and I wasn't getting along with them too well down in Florida for the first week, but I don't know if I was just mad at the Florida heat or it was my body just adjusting to running in a bit of a different environment. But since we've come back here, I've enjoyed them a little bit more, so we'll see how they do on the treadmill. Just a nice and easy run this morning. And I know some of you guys like these for marathon pace, some of you guys like these for workouts. For me so far, I haven't really figured out exactly where they fit in best, but yesterday just cruising with Reevesy Boy in the stroller, it was a really nice shoe, which is pretty similar to what the, let's see in the magic bag here if I can pull it out of the bag. Yes, pretty similar to what I liked the Novablast for. Now this guy has been one of my favorite shoes of the past few years, probably, for just cruising in comfort, getting some nice time on feet. I got this up to 100 miles pretty quickly because during the peak mileage of my marathon training season right now, or a few weeks ago, I'm now coming down a little bit. This thing was an absolute tank. The only downside was really the outsole coverage here. So today I want to do a comparison head to head between these guys. I'm going to get my run in the Superblast, probably bump some Future and Metro on the treadmill, and then we'll pop off the treadmill. I'll break down all the key differences between these and let you know who each of these are going to be best for. And thank you to everybody who bullied me into getting the Superblast. I think we're going to be able to find a place for this guy in the rotation, especially because it is a little bit long on me and my left toe got absolutely smashed. I don't know if it was the Mach 6 or the Sky Paris, but I might have to show you some not safe for work toe content after we get off the treadmill. But we're going to head to the gym. It's still a beautiful day, even though it's raining. Look at that bush just blooming. And that's a Grand Cherokee right there. But look at that bush just blooming, man. Any day where we can get some miles in, treadmill or outside, it's a blessing. So let's get into it. So both the Superblast and the Novablast are a good choice if you want something really protective. Now the Superblast has a little bit more stack. This guy is 45 in the heel versus 42 for the Novablast, and also the foam in the Superblast is a little bit bouncier and in my experience has been better for fast running. However, one of the key draws of the Superblast here, and the reason that I'm using it today, is that because it has so much cushion and protection, it's also a do-it-all shoe in the way that the Novablast isn't really. And I found that the Novablast is more specialized for longer, relaxed miles, and the Superblast has been a little bit better for me, or actually a lot bit better for me, for anything where I'm picking up the pace down to marathon zone or even faster. I did some strides in these, so strides are short bursts of speed, and I was moving at a 4-something clip for some of them. So Superblast is a much better shoe if you want anything with some sort of speed capability to it. Now, that being said, it's also $60 more expensive. So one of the things that I want to do with this comparison is help you decide if that extra $60 is going to be worth it. That's a pretty significant premium. You could get a lot of gels for that. Alright, so about to pop onto the treadmill, 8 miles in these guys. I'll be back to do the full comparison.
Those are good looking shoes.
Thanks.
You can't hide in those, can you?
No, these are Asics. Asics. Have you tried Asics?
Yeah, I had one pair. When I used to run, I bought a pair of Asics. They gave me blessings.
All right, guys, we just finished. Let's see. Well, I'm gonna have to recalibrate it. We got 5.6 according to this, but we actually got 6 miles. Let me recalibrate quickly. All right, so let's see, 6 miles. I think about an 8:30 pace. Yeah, 50 minutes in the Superblast here. And man, I did not want to take these things off. I felt like I was, with the slow pace combined with just cruising, I felt like I was on one of these things, these ellipticals just gliding along. So, man, these have really softened up a ton. They've broken in and they're just super smooth and comfortable now. So, you guys were right. Somebody was waiting for me to say that. You guys were right. And that's why I do first run review, and that's why I do these double days, and I give my thoughts along the way so that others can see the whole experience and journey with the shoe. Now, I was planning on doing 8 miles, if you remember. So we were going to do the last 2 in the Novablast because we brought them. And so I can reacquaint myself with the shoe because I have not run in these guys back to back yet. And it's been a few days since I've run in this. But man, Superblast and a plate of salmon, this is a sweet shoe. But 70 miles is what it took to break in, which is longer than an EVA-based shoe. I swear there's some EVA in here, guys. No one believes me. There's gotta be some EVA in here. So I'm gonna pop just one of these shoes on first so we can do a little bit of a fit and feel test, but I do have to say the Superblast is half a size bigger. So the Novablast is in a size 10.5 and then Superblast is size 11. So slipping it on, yeah, I can tell I have a little bit more room in the Superblast here, about exactly a half a size. But overall, the upper of the Novablast, the material itself just feels a little snugger. Not regardless of the sizing, this just feels like it's hugging my foot a little bit more, and it's not as, I don't know, this is just a little bit, you can see here, even where I have it cranked down, it's a little bit looser and lighter and airier. This is a more constricting upper for sure. It's also more comfortable. Even the laces with the Novablast are a little bit softer in my hands than we're getting with the Superblast. I messed up on my lacing there. So I was talking to you guys. Well, I guess I should be a pro at tying and lacing at this point. But underfoot, let's see. Yeah, so it's definitely a firmer, a little bit more planted feeling in the forefoot with this Novablast. It also just feels a little bit more basic. The Superblast feels like a lot of shoe underfoot, and I actually took this guy for a day at it was not an aquarium, it was kind of like that down in Florida. If you guys watched my double day video, you would have seen that, but I walked around for probably 2 hours with the Superblast, and it was a lot more comfortable than I was expecting. And I think the geometry on this roll here, is a little bit more normal than what we get on the Novablast. The Novablast can have a little bit of a disconnected feeling where you see there's this little concave aspect where it curves up in the middle, which can give it a little bit of a weird feeling when just having it on foot like this. So yeah, walking around the gym a little bit here, looking like a complete freak, might I add. Just 2 different shoes on. I'm just trying to have nobody look at me, but I don't think it's working. I think everyone is staring at me right now. But yeah, Novablast I can feel that disconnected feeling. If I had to choose one of these to just walk around all day, it would definitely be the Superblast. But in terms of stability and the heel feeling, it feels like I get a little bit better of a heel lockdown in the Novablast. I'm not sure why that is. I think it's because we get a lot more padding out in the back of the Novablast than the Superblast. The Superblast feels like the upper is a little bit more of a lightweight material. Now, before we get any farther with the shoe comparison, I do have to show you this sign. They got more signs. Last time was the deadlifting. This time, absolutely no animals of any kind are allowed in the gym. But I'm kind of happy about that because it means I will not get attacked by a dog in here. Or I might, but at least the person will get terminated. Their membership will be terminated. All right, I'm going to pop back onto the treadmill here with the Novablast, but Superblast definitely has a little bit more of a softer squish feeling. Novablast is a little bit more stable and planted, and you can definitely tell the difference in stack here. The Superblast feels a lot higher up in the heel than the Novablast. Novablast feels a little bit more, it's weird to say lower to the ground because it's such a tall shoe, but it does feel lower to the ground, a little bit more planted and connected than the plate of salmon over here. So last 2 miles, Novablast, let's go. Now I have a long run tomorrow, and I'm not actually sure yet what I'm going to be wearing for it, but some of you guys have asked me how to improve your long run performance, how to race a half marathon better and hold on to your goal race pace for longer, and
Guys, doing these recovery days, so I'm only getting 8 miles today, but that works out to about an hour. Doing an hour long or ideally 90-minute recovery run in between your hard days and not worrying about pace at all, just focusing on time on feet, that has been one of the things that has unlocked better long distance performance for me as a runner. So it helps increase your weekly volume, which means that you can hold on to your faster paces for a little bit longer. So that's the main reason why I do these days, and that's the reason why I love these high stack shoes like the Superblast and the Novablast, because they give a lot of protection for these days when our joints might be feeling a little bit more beat up. Yesterday I ran my fastest 6-mile workout ever. So these two types of shoes here are awesome for allowing us to do that and recovering. So they're both good choices if you need a little bit more protection than a standard everyday running shoe. All right, let's go, last two.
All right, guys, last 2 miles of the recovery in the Novablast. 1.93 it tells me. Well, we got 2. All right, let's see. Boom, 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 boom. All right. Yeah, 2.0 miles, 8:23, 16:48 pace. And I do want to check my heart rate. I don't train by heart rate, but I'm thinking it might be interesting to do a little comparison. So my average heart rate in the Novablast was 114. Wow. That's low. I think it's because yesterday we were moving in the 170s, if the watch was accurate, for almost an hour. So usually the next day after an effort like that, the heart rate's a lot lower. So Novablast, man, these up until the past few weeks, this was my go-to distance recovery shoe, and it's not the softest, but the more time that you put into the shoe, so the more miles during a run that I put on this guy, it just starts to feel better and better. And even in this 2-mile effort right here, which was about 15 minutes, the first few minutes, especially after coming right off the Superblast, I was thinking, this is firm, this is a little awkward, but even toward the end of that 15 minutes, it started to feel a lot better. So it's not necessarily that the shoe breaks in, but the more time that you spend in it throughout the run, the better it feels, because it is a lot of stack, and there is a lot of foam. And let's even compare it to the Superblast here. It's not just the stack that you're going to be getting a lot of in the Novablast, but the width. And so let's take a look at these guys. You can see the Novablast, even in the 10.5, might be even a little bit wider than the Superblast here. So you're getting a lot of foam, and unless you are spending some serious time on feet, the Novablast doesn't make a lot of sense. Now, this was the run, or today and yesterday, where I started really liking the Superblast. Today it felt soft, it felt smooth, a nice little gentle bounce compared to the Novablast for these few miles here. This had more of a firm snap through, especially in the beginning, and then as I got into the run, it smoothed out a little bit. But both of these shoes are super protective. I think today the Superblast is feeling a little bit more protective for me and a little bit softer. First few runs in this thing, it was soft, but I wasn't getting that bounce back. And as we've warmed up into the shoe, as the shoe has broken in, now that we're about 60, 70 miles, I'm getting that nice bounce off. This guy here, there's not too much of a bounce. It's an EVA foam versus the nylon, almost very, very similar to a PIBA, but racing foam in here with this FF Turbo. This is more of a standard training foam. It is a really nice foam, but it doesn't have a lot of natural bounce in it, and you don't get a huge rocker in here. So the main thing that you are getting is that nice snap off the forefoot, and this, they call it the trampoline pad up here. I think both of these shoes have a similar design. Yeah, you can see they both have that trampoline pad. But that's really the most prominent ride feature that you're going to be getting on the Novablast here. You get a little bit of a roll through because the concave thing, it kind of pops you down, and then you get that nice bop off on the forefoot here. So 2 awesome shoes. We're gonna head to the car, and then I'll give you my full thoughts on who these are best for. Now, I've been wearing the Craft Pacer a lot recently as my everyday go-around shoe, and just slipping this on after wearing the Superblast and the Novablast, this shoe feels a lot more normal. And this is measured, the Craft here is measured at a 40 millimeter stack height, but the foam the geometry isn't as crazy. You can see the geometry is super normal compared to what we get in both the Novablast and the Superblast. They've just done a lot with the sculpting of the foam and how much foam we get here. Guys, let me know, should I order more hobby jogger hats? Let me know in the comments. Hey guys, so we just pulled up at home here, and driving home in the Jeep, I was thinking, this Superblast here, it's a smooth ride once it's broken in. And it almost reminds me of my current Jeep here. And I had an older Jeep with the V6 engine, and that's kind of like what the Novablast is, right? Both of these are Jeeps, but this is a little bit choppier, not as smooth, a little bit more tough, a little bit more rough and rumble. Whereas this is like the inline 4 with the turbo, and it actually does have the turbo foam. And when you step on it, it's a little bit smoother to give you that pep in your step, versus this guy might be a little bit more of an abrasive transition, but it will still get the job done. Both of these guys can crank and cruise through a ton of miles. It's just, this one's not as refined as an experience. It takes a little bit getting used to use it best. So I'm going to go shower. We got to do this party, and then we're going to hit the office for full breakdown of who these are best for, and I'll dive into a few more of the details like the upper and the outsoles. All right, guys, so I'm back home after a full day of kids' birthday parties, going to the park, all that good stuff. But I wanted to close out by doing more of a deep dive into some of the differences between these two, and then end by letting you know who these are best for. So in general, Superblast here, a little bit softer once it's broken in, bouncier, also a faster shoe. This is going to be better for picking up the pace down to that marathon range for a lot of people. It also feels like it can hold a faster pace for longer. Once you get the legs turning over and cranking up, this guy has a really nice, smooth, bouncy ride that's good for making it easier to hold paces. Now, it does take a little bit of time to break this guy in, and I did not get along with it super well until about 70 miles, and it's still not my favorite all-time shoe to run that marathon pace. But what you're getting that you're not going to be getting in a shoe like the Boston 12, Puma DV8 Nitro 2, even something like the Saucony Endorphin Pro 4 or a racing shoe, is a lot of this foam here and a lot of comfort. So if you want a more comfortable shoe that can also handle marathon pace, that can do long runs well, that's going to be the Asics Superblast here. Now, to the Novablast. This guy is also a long run beast, but it leans a little bit to the firmer side. It's not as bouncy right out of the box or ever. The upper is a little bit more comfortable, so that's going to be a key difference between these two. I think the foam comfort goes to the Superblast, but the upper comfort goes to the Novablast. If you look around here, the upper on the Novablast is a lot more padded. Superblast, we don't have too much padding. Superblast is also a little bit more flexible back here. There's a little bit less going on just because they did cut some weight in the Superblast, whereas in the Novablast, it's more of a built-up training shoe, so those weight savings aren't as important. Now, one thing I should note is that the Superblast does have a bottom layer of this FF Blast Plus foam, which is the same thing in the Novablast, but it doesn't affect the ride too much. It's almost like a glorified outsole. It's just going to add a little bit more stability on the bottom. And for stability, both these shoes are awesome when it comes to that, but the Novablast is going to be a little bit more stable. The sidewalls feel like they cradle the shoe more, and because you got this more rigid heel piece, it really locks your foot down. And as for the fit of the uppers here, I do have the Superblast in a half size bigger than I would normally get. And even if it were my normal true to size, this is going to be a little bit of a wider, roomier toe box than most shoes. The Novablast here feels like it tapers just a little bit more, but also a nice roomy upper. So if you have a wider foot, both of these shoes should work well. And then as for the outsole, we did not touch on this because we were running on the treadmill, but they have very similar outsole patterns. The Novablast has more rubber coverage in that it's thicker. So if you look around here, you can see we have a really thick layer of rubber up here. However, this was one of the worst performing rubbers in the rain that I've ever tried. It is not grippy at all. I was slipping and sliding everywhere. So you're going to get some nice protection, or the foam is going to get some nice protection because the rubber is going to keep the foam from getting dinged up. but the rubber's not going to do much to keep you from getting dinged up if you are running in the rain. Now, to the Superblast here, the grip on this is a little bit better. It's still not the best rubber that I've ever used, and nowhere near an Adidas or a Puma, and Asics in general, their rubber is not the best, but grip here is a tiny bit better. You can see on this guy, we also are getting some wear into the foam, even at about 70 to 80 miles here. I do have to say though, I've seen some people taking the Superblast to ridiculous high mileage levels beyond 500 miles. So I think if durability is a concern for you, and with this being a more expensive shoe, you are going to get some good life out of the shoe. And that's the trade-off. It's going to take some time to break in and soften up, but once it does, you'll be able to use the shoe for hundreds of miles. And now with the Novablast, I have this guy at about 110, 120 miles now and performing really well. There was no real break-in period for it, and I do think we're going to see some strong durability just because it's a little bit of a firmer foam and we got all this rubber. But I haven't seen too many super high mileage reviews of this guy trickling out yet on the forums just because it is a newer release, a December release. So if you guys know, if you know anyone who's taken this past 300, please let me know because I'm curious to see how this is going to hold up once we do get it to those high mileage levels, which I likely won't be getting this to 200 till the summer and probably won't get it to 300 until later in the year. So overall, in terms of who these are best for, I would choose the Superblast if you want something a little bit softer, a little bit bouncier, and also for faster running. Also, with it being a $200 shoe, you got to be willing to give it some time. I was really disappointed with it out of the box, saying it's a $200 shoe. It should feel better. But I think this FF Turbo it needs some love to break in and feel good. So if you're willing to be patient and you are a higher mileage runner and you can get that 60, 70, 80 miles it needs to break in within a few weeks, then I think you'll be happy. But if you only run a few days a week and you're not going to get that 60, 70, 80 miles for a month or two to 3 months, I would not go for the Superblast here. You're going to get the most benefit out of this shoe if you're running a ton of long runs, if you're running a workout or two a week, and you're going to be able to use the shoe for all that. And even if you're doing some races in the shoe, this would be a good choice. Now, for the Novablast here, with this being $140, I would go for this guy if you're not doing a ton of workouts, if you don't need something super soft, super bouncy, if you don't need something for faster running, if you want something that's a little bit better for relaxed running, maybe you're just in a base building period of your training or you're just starting out running and you want something protective, this shoe would be awesome. This is also a great everyday running shoe, a great daily trainer for any bigger runners out there. It is very supportive, very stable, and with it being a firmer foam plus the width that you're getting here, it's just an awesome shoe for cranking out the miles and feeling very supported. Now, this didn't require any sort of a break-in period, and it's been pretty consistent throughout all my runs. I do have to say, though, like the Superblast, both of these shoes, with them having above 40 millimeter stacks, neither of these are going to be great if you want something for 30-minute runs and going to the gym. I wouldn't choose either of these shoes if you want a simple everyday running shoe. But if I had to pick between these two for something simple for shorter runs, for walking, I would go with the Novablast here, especially because it's $60 cheaper. The benefit of the Superblast is that it's going to leave your legs feeling super cushioned, super protected, and super fresh for high mileage. You don't need all of that if you're not running a ton. I would go for the Novablast here. This is an awesome shoe. It is the little brother to this guy, but it's still an awesome protective shoe. Now, I did want to highlight a few alternatives here to both the Superblast and the Novablast. So as I mentioned, these two shoes are going to be best if you are cranking out miles and need a lot of protection. If you want something that's a little bit better for shorter runs, that's still fun and bouncy like the Superblast, I would go for the Hoka Mach 6. This is one of the shoes that's really impressed me this year because it has a nice, soft, bouncy foam. It is really fun. I took it for a fast workout this week. I got down to 540, 550 pace and was cruising. I think we got 14 miles total that run, and then I did another run for 22 miles on the day, and it felt pretty protected throughout all those miles. I do have to say, towards the end of that second run, towards the end of that 22 miles, and then the next day when I took it for, I think, 8 or 10 more miles, so it was about 30 miles within 2 days, the foam did start feeling a little bit less bouncy, which isn't something that would happen on either of these shoes. So this is going to be best if maybe you're running a few times a week and just want to have that fun feeling every time you lace it up. You're not too worried about running on back-to-back days in the shoe, or if you are running every day and are going to rotate this with something else and don't need all the cushion, all the protection of these two guys. So if you want a simpler shoe that's fun and bouncy, same price as the Novablast here, $140, I would go for the Hoka Mach 6. Now, if you like the idea of the protection of the Superblast and that soft and bouncy race day foam, but again, want a little bit of a lower stack and also still want that durability, I would go for the Puma DV8 Nitro 2. This is a little bit lower. There's a little bit less foam in here than the Superblast, but it still has decent stability because of this wider heel out here in the back. It's not the most stable shoe I've run in, but it has great outsole grip and a little rock catcher here, and is a little bit more of a minimal feeling, a little bit more of a normal feeling running shoe than either the Novablast or the Superblast. So if you like the idea of having this race day foam in an everyday running shoe, but don't want to spend $200, I would go for the Puma DV8 Nitro 2 here. It's one of the best daily trainer / speed day up-tempo training shoes on the market, and I've seen some good deals on this start to pop up, under $100 deals. So this is going to be the best budget or best deal alternative to the Superblast if you want that race day foam and that fun feeling, but don't want to shell out $200, or you don't want that massive stack. Now, the last alternative I brought out here is the New Balance 1080 V13. So I would look at this one. It's $160. If you want a relaxed everyday running shoe or recovery running shoe, similar to the Novablast here, but you don't want that firmer foam, this guy has one of the best soft rides that I've ever run in. I think this is my favorite soft shoe. This Fresh Foam X here is really comfortable. If I put this on, which maybe I'll do that after this, you can see that the foam just completely compresses down. Even as I'm pushing it down here, you can see we get that compression here. It is a super protective ride, just like the Novablast, but instead of having that firmer feeling, instead of having that little bounce you get, that little bop you get off the forefoot here, it just has this nice sinking in feeling. You're not going to feel like you want to run fast at all. You're not going to want to pick up the pace at all. Everything about the shoe is just comfort, cushion, padding all around. So if you like the idea of a protective shoe for relaxed days, but don't want something super bouncy, don't want to spend $200, and don't need the speed capability of the Superblast, I would look for the New Balance 1080 V13. So all right, guys, there is our comparison of the Novablast and the Superblast. Also, a few alternatives for you. Let me know what you want to see compared on the channel next. I have a long run tomorrow, and then I'm thinking we'll do a little bit of race shoe comparisons. That's what I want to be focusing on next. So let me know all of your race shoe comparison requests. As always, I appreciate you watching, and I'll be back out here tomorrow for another video.